This is Kazia Luckett from the Women of Contribution group, and today on the Inspiring Conversations podcast, I am joined all the way from LA by a phenomenal lady called Ashley Eakin. And I am so excited, Ashley, to welcome you. But before I allow you a chance to speak, let me tell everybody about Ashley and why it was so important that she come on today and join us in our inspiring conversations, because Ashley is amazing. And I'll tell you in a minute how I got to find out about Ashley. But Ashley is a female filmmaker. She was one of 8 women selected to participate in the AFI Directing Workshop for Women. She has worked on films such as Crazy Rich Asians, and she was featured on the Soul Pancake video, and that's where I saw her. Now that video alone has had 41 million hits. Yes, you heard me right, 41 million hits. And the reason that I absolutely loved it was because in that video, you step forward, Ashley, in quite a raw and vulnerable way to talk about a bone condition that you have, and I hope I'm going to pronounce it right, Olliers disease and Maffucci syndrome. Is that correct?
Yes.
So firstly, welcome. And I can't wait to kind of delve in and talk a little bit more about you and your mission.
Yeah, I'm so excited to be here. This is awesome.
So originally, as I say, I saw you on the Soul Pancake video, and the thing that, I mean, it gives me goosebumps just thinking about it now. The thing that really touched my heart and soul was that you were on your own journey. You, in your words, just before we started, you said that you were kind of hiding from yourself. And I know so many women out there will understand what that means. Can you just kind of expand on that a little further?
Yeah, I mean, regarding the video and stuff, it has a lot to do with social media and hiding the flaws that you don't like about yourself. And for me, I was always hiding my bone disease, and I was a social person. So I had a lot of friends. People knew me in person, so they knew I had a bone disease. They knew what it looked like, but I didn't like coming face to face with it. So I was cropping my body in certain ways that would hide things. I just was curating what I wanted people to see of me. So they didn't foresee my disease. They just saw me. And I don't know, it was definitely, I was hiding from the world, but the biggest thing is I was hiding from myself. So.
And when we hide from ourselves, it's like we're not truly stepping up and being visible. And there was a defining moment for you that made you go, do you know what, I can't do this anymore. And it was to do with a support group for your bone disease. Can you just expand on that one person that made you change your mind?
Yeah, so I was up late one night and I found a Facebook group that has a bunch of people who have my rare bone disease. And before then, I had never met anyone who had my rare bone disease. I always heard of people, but there was never a face, there was never names. It was just like, there's people out there. And so when I found this Facebook group, it was this incredible experience where literally on the main page, they have a map of all the different people and where they are in the world. And it's just like this beautiful, there's only like 100, I think there's like 150 people on the actual map. There's a lot of people who have Olliers. Maffucci's is the more rare one, which sometimes people get confused, but I have both. If you have Maffucci's, you definitely have Olliers, but you don't always have to have Maffucci's if you have Olliers. So it's kind of a complicated thing. But when I was on this page, I'm scrolling through, I'm looking at all the people. There's some older women who I never saw in my life as someone, older than me. But the thing that really impacted me the most was I came across this little girl, and she was, I think at the time, 6 or 7. And her hands look the exact same as mine. And it's the hands that I always would hide and the hands that I hated so much. And, I've done some really incredible stuff in my life as far as like a filmmaker for Crazy Rich Asians. I lived in Malaysia and Singapore, and I've worked with top level Hollywood people, and it's You know, I feel really proud of like how I've stepped out in my life and really just done everything despite my disease. But what I was thinking is if this little girl is, you know, just searching for herself and trying to figure out how she feels about growing up with this disease, and she saw me on my social media, she would be like, that girl doesn't get it because she's normal. And she doesn't, yeah, maybe she says she has it, but it doesn't look like she has it. And so I wanted her to know that people like you can go out and do these things and you can have your place in there. And I think it was this huge lesson for me on representation and how powerful it was for me to see myself in a little girl and be like, if I had that role model who's out there working on movies or just in the working world in general, you know, I used to always, there's this weird thing when I was young where I used to always think that I was going to die like before I became an adult, because I never saw someone who looked like me as an adult. So it was just in my mind that like, oh, well, I'll probably just like die before then, which is not the case, you know? And it's seeing, I think, people older than you is so powerful. Like I've been introduced to the most amazing people, and one woman who we've grown so close, and like her family is incredible. And she just travels the world all the time. And she has Olier's in her, like it's, you know, pretty progressive in her right or her left arm, but it's like, she's out there doing all this stuff and she's living a life and has had kids and has, you know, it's just so inspiring. So I realized like that little girl needs someone, and I need to put my own ego and my own insecurities aside and really just be open and like put it out into the world where, you know, I never thought it would go this viral. I thought it was going to be like my little group on Facebook will be like, wow, I totally resonate with that. But then it just like exploded, and it was this insane, you know, it's been an insane journey. Like to this day, literally on my Instagram and Facebook, I get messages from people being like, I saw your video just now, and, you know, just giving me like an encouraging message or just saying it resonates with them. And there's so many different people, like it's resonated in such different ways where, you know, someone has messaged me and been like, you know, I suffer from depression and your video resonates with me. I suffer from, you know, I have like a crooked finger and this so resonates with me. And I know it's different, but it sounded so true. And, you know, it's just the spectrum is really crazy, the people that it's reached and how it resonates. And I think we just all, I don't know, identity is such a tough thing. And when you actually confront it, it's kind of amazing because you get to be who you are fully, and you're not like compartmentalizing your life or putting yourself into boxes like they'll only like me if I'm this way. Or, you know, there comes a point, and this is like the beautiful thing about aging, which I actually like aging because I'm like, I'm so much more wise, and I, you know, I don't care anymore, and I'm not crying because a photo was posted of me on Facebook that I don't like. You know, it was like really aggressive growing up where I kind of just didn't want any of that being seen, or, you know, it's so different now. And I love like this part of my life, really like meeting other people who are struggling with it and still realizing the parts of my own self that I'm still struggling with. That's the interesting thing, is you think you're totally over it, but I think it's going to be a lifelong journey of breaking habits that I have, you know, had for over 30 years of trying to hide things. Or, you know, I prefer this seat in the restaurant near a wall so people don't see my hand as much. Like it's these weird things where you start to really realize, wow, this is like a lifetime of ingrained behavior. That's, you know, it's just a journey to kind of break through it. So,
and I get it. I mean, not to
yeah.
you know, the extreme, but I've got really skinny legs, and as a child, I was bullied mercilessly for having skinny legs, and I had all the I thought I had all the tricks of the trade to cover it up: long skirts, always wore trousers, and it was my daughter actually that made me kind of step out of that boundary. When one day she said to me, "Mummy, you never wear dresses." And it was just like, I don't want to teach my daughter to be ashamed of her body. And that's essentially what you were doing for that young girl is, you know, we all need those role models to look up for. And when you have something that is so rare, I mean, you're saying that there's kind of maybe 150 people tops around the world.
Yeah, with Mafushi. So Olier's, I just want to make that clear because I know there's been some people who are like, Olier's is way more common. And it is. Olier's is, I mean, Olier's really ranges. So it can be like you have a little bit of Ohlers in your knee and you would never really even be able to tell, but it does affect the bones and stuff. So it's a lot more common in that sense. But Mafushi's is the more aggressive. I mean, it's definitely the part of the disease that is the toughest. And that's the things, I mean, you know, not to say which one is more tough or not, but I think it's, you know, it's definitely takes it to a whole nother degree with the disease. And that's the one where there's like, you know, when I was growing up, it was like 200 cases in the world. And now it's probably changed statistically and stuff, but it's still very, very rare to have Maffucci syndrome. So.
And for those people that have no idea what it's about, and especially for those that are listening to the podcast, can you just explain some of the symptoms, attributes that go along with Maffucci?
Right. Yeah. So Ohlers disease, it affects the growth of your bones, and there will be bony tumors that will grow, hemangiomas, which are like vascular kind of tumors, benign. And then Maffucci's is more, it's more of those vascular tumors, and there's a very like increased chance of it turning into cancer. And I've actually had ovarian cancer, which is related to my bone disease. They don't exactly know how. That's kind of the thing about this disease is there's not a ton of research. There's more being done, which is a really exciting thing that's kind of happened, that I've been able to see kind of happen and know, you know, as an adult that it's happening. It just takes a long time and you know, trying to figure it out, but it can really range. Like some people you won't really be able to notice, but with me, it's affected almost my entire body. So my arms are shorter than they should be. My legs are, you know, parts of them are shorter, parts of them aren't average size. So it's kind of, you know, sometimes people want to put me into a label of like, oh, her arms look like a little person, but it's not. It's the bone disease that has affected the growth. Where some people who have Ohlers, it will only affect one side, and that's pretty common with the disease, where it'll pick a side to be more aggressive. And so mine is always my right side is more aggressive, where like my left side, like part of my leg on my left side looks completely average, like everyone else's. And then, you know, my right side, my body doesn't look like anyone's. So it's kind of this weird balance sometimes where I'm like, I have a side that I favor, and it's just so interesting. But it's very common with people with Ohlers. You know, they're always kind of the woman that I met, Gina, who's like my guru woman, just like amazing person that I've met that I really admire. It's more definitely noticeable on one side, and it can really easily, I feel like, for her be hidden if she's, you know, always kind of just turning a certain way, which I think is the interesting part about this disease. Me and a girl just connected last night who, she has a different bone disease, but we were just talking about how the fact that you can hide it makes it very specific journey that you take with it. Because if, you know, I was say in a wheelchair, it's like, I'm in a wheelchair, everyone knows. And, you know, like you could still kind of hide that on social media, but there's this thing that you can hide this in person in a way where someone's kind of like can't tell. And, you know, that's kind of the journey of it all, is like, if I go to the grocery store in a tank top, it's going to be a very different experience if I go to the grocery store in a jacket. And it's kind of making that decision every day of like, do I really feel like getting stared at today? Do I really feel like dealing with all of it, you know? And you learn to just kind of ignore it and let it filter out, and not, you know, it's just a part of your life that you live with, and you just deal with it. And it's more, what me and this girl were talking about is it's more uncomfortable for the people that are with us at the time, because we experience it all the time. So we're just like, oh, well, you know, like it's okay, you know, but we know when other people, like our friends or someone, will see the person staring and they'll be like, they're so rude. Like, it happens all the time. It's okay. Like, just let it go, you know? But yeah, yeah, it's definitely a very interesting experience.
And the thing that I loved is, and we were discussing this before we started the recording, was the thing that I loved was that on the Soul Pancake clip, at the end you were talking about, you know, the way that you had hidden it. And do you know, I'm getting goosebumps just even thinking about the video, because there comes a point in the video where it's like, I'm done with hiding. I can't do this anymore. And you're wearing a jacket and you remove that jacket. And with that removal of the jacket, it was kind of like, from an outsider looking in, it was that I'm shedding everything. I don't need to fear this anymore. This is who I am. This is me. You know, if I'm exposing myself to all of these people, they have a choice. They either take it or leave it. And what was going through your mind at that point?
I mean, I think, you know, it felt very empowering, but it was also, you know, a lot of those memories flood back of times where you feel like you were judged because of your bone disease. And so I think that's why there's a little bit of pain associated with that moment, where I was just thinking about, you know, all these people are going to see this. And I've been trying to hold up this image, and I've been trying to hold up, you know, I didn't want people to see me as lesser than. And so I don't know, it definitely was a shedding of, you know, just that insecurity. It's going outside of yourself and realizing one day we're all going to pass away. Like, it's just a fact of life. And are these hidden Instagram pictures really going to matter? Are these hidden Facebook pictures? What's going to matter is that little girl, when I'm gone, sitting there being like, no one understands me, or I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. People are going to think I'm weird in the workplace, or, you know, all these things, and being like, whoa, this person did it. And seeing me, you know, there's like this amazing Crazy Rich Asians picture that came out where you know, I'm very small in it, but it's while we were shooting in the house, and you can see me in the bottom like corner. And it's a photo where I feel like years ago, I would have never shared it. I would have been like, you can kind of see that my hand looks different. My arm is a little different. And I feel like me, you know, 4 years back, maybe even like 2 years back, would have never posted it. But now I'm like, I'm like proud of that someone like me is in that setting, is there with everyone, you know, in a world where you kind of think like perfection is the only thing that counts or matters. And I'm just like there representing someone like me, you know. And I think, you know, I think I thanked my boss at one point where I was like, thank you for choosing me. It was a very hard job to get as his assistant. And, you know, I was like, thank you for choosing me, because you're also doing something for representation of people just in the film industry in general. You know, I know my moment in the film industry was when I saw a guy speak in college who had, I think he was like paralyzed in one arm. And it was just seeing this person like, oh, that guy works in Hollywood. Maybe I could work in Hollywood. And it kind of slowly started to shift my mind on, you know, it's just the power of representation is so huge. And I think it affects us more than we realize. I used to never really understand it until it really just like directly happened to me, and has really changed other people's lives because of my representation on the Soul Pancake video. You know, there's people who've reached out to me that are like, I have ole ears and I have never in my life seen anyone else in the world who has it. And this video made me feel like I'm at home. And I'm like, that's crazy, you know, or it's just I feel like after the video came out, I was just in tears for like a month, because I was getting these messages that were like changing my life. You know, it was this healing. You know, the internet is a scary place. I'm like so lucky that 99% of the feedback was so supportive and positive. And, you know, that's not always the case with the internet. But what it did show me too, and I mean, there's definitely the trolls on there who are saying, you know, like mean things or whatever, which it's, you know, it's funny because I'm just like, what I do is I'm like, I think about what's the very worst thing that someone could say, and then know that I'm okay from that. And there are people who still love me in my life, and I have my career, I have my, you know, like I have all these things that person's comment actually doesn't mean anything. And so it's kind of just like a way that I've dealt with that type of stuff. But yeah, I don't know. It's been
let's
crazy.
be honest, you're out there not only representing you know, a section of people, a very rare section of people that are suffering with this bone condition. But also you're in quite a male dominated industry. You're in Hollywood, and
Oh
actually
yeah.
being a woman, I mean, just seeing the Oscars, you know, yesterday, and seeing, you know, the shift that's slowly starting to happen is just,
Yeah.
and I mean, I really want to talk about, because you honored me in such a huge way, in so much as you sent me a viewing of your latest short film, and it's called Blue. And I can again, I'm getting massive goosebumps. I can honestly say, when I watched it, there were so many different things that I just picked up on, and I was just like, oh my gosh, not only is that so clever, but it's something that so many people are suffering with on a day-to-day basis. So I'm not sure if you can give things away at the moment, but could you give people just a little snippet of what Blue's all about?
Yeah, so Blue is based off of it was inspired by, I guess I can't say based off of, but it was inspired by a Shel Silverstein poem called Masks.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just kind of my own interpretation of how that poem resonates with me. And it's about two high school students who have physical differences. They have something different about themselves that they're constantly trying to hide, and they don't go to events because they're not wanting people to see it. And it's, you know, it's kind of consuming their life. But what they don't realize is they're actually the same. And then at the end, there's kind of a whole message about what it means to even feel like you have something different. But it, you know, that project has been so healing for me. And I
Mm-hmm.
feel like, because I am like an artist, and I pour kind of like my feelings and energy into that type of stuff, it's just like watching it and creating it has given me so much like peace, where I'm like, that's really all I need. Like, I want people to love it, and there are a lot of like amazing feedback I've been getting from it, but at the end of the day, I feel like I made that for myself, and I made it for people who resonate with it. Because it's kind of like a strange piece, you know, there's little surrealism, and some people don't get it. Some people are like, okay. And I'm like, I didn't make it for you, you know, like, it's okay. Because it's like, it's the people who watch it and are like, oh my gosh, you know, my grandma watched it the other day. And, you know, you never know. I'm like, is my grandma gonna be like, what the heck? This is what you've been spending your whole time and money on. But we watched it, and she looked at me after, and she was like, you know what? Ever since I was 5 years old, I developed a stutter.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, and it went away when I was like 16, but I lived, you know, that whole part of my life with the stutter. And I don't talk to people about it because it was something that I always tried to hide. And I was always, you know, it was like a painful childhood experience for her. And I'm like, I would have never known any of this if I didn't share something with her in that way where she resonated with it. You know, that was her Blue. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's kind of what I love so much about the project is I actually changed the ending. And I've had this project in development and just kind of been planning it for, like, before I shot it, almost like a year and a half or 2 years. And I changed the ending after the Soul Pancake thing because I was like, wait a second, there's something bigger happening here than just me having my insecurities. Like, yeah, it's very specific, but I think what I'm learning is so many people deal with stuff that we don't know. Everyone has their thing that they fear or that they're insecure about or that they want to hide. And, you know, it's just because it's not a disease or something you can easily pinpoint, you know, it doesn't mean it doesn't matter, or it's not as, you know, like stressful or painful for them to do. So I think that's kind of, you know, I'm having a family and friends and people who donated to my short film. I'm doing a screening this weekend in LA. And so that's really fun and exciting to be able to share that with them. And, you know, it's something that I truly just like love. It's one of those things where this was born out of pain. And I think that's sometimes when the best art is created, you know?
Most definitely, those stories that 9 times out of 10 we try and hide. And obviously for me in the Pay It Forward series, you know, there are women stepping up to tell their stories, knowing that it's going to inspire and empower the people. And the thing that I loved about Blue is kind of like what you said, is the fact that I watched it and I thought, yeah, that relates to me and how I tried to cover my body up to and play small so that I didn't get bullied. And it would apply to somebody that maybe had a stutter, or, you know, a skin condition, or, you know, a scar, or any of those things where we are all out there probably trying to cover up all these things, but actually that thing is what unites us as human beings.
Yeah. And it's what defines us in a way. The funny thing is I did a little short film. I don't know if you saw it, but when I was filming Crazy Rich Asians, I did a docu short film with some of the cast and some of the crew about details. And it's them describing a detail about someone that they love. And they're so, you know, bright-eyed and like cheerful when they're talking about it, even if it's someone's scar or their big nose or something. And then I asked them to describe a unique detail about themselves. And, you know, they struggled. And it was this weird, it brought out this huge, weird insecurity thing with every single person, which was, they knew actually going into this that I was going to ask that. So their reaction was even more shocking to me, because I was like, wow, this is such a, when you shift to yourself, the energy changes so much. But it's like those people that you love, like you love them because of these details. Like my sister is a nurse and we're 2 years apart, and she's, you know, always been like my best friend through everything, and always kind of been my person for me to, you know, be honest with her about everything. And she knows how insecure I like was about my hands, and she would always tell me how much she loved them because they're so soft. And I'm like, isn't that weird that she identified, like she, you know, she'll have a patient and she's like, their hands remind me of you. And I'm like, and she thinks of that in a warm way. You know, it's not like she's thinking of it as like Ashley's weird hands. It's like she loves me, and and I think that's kind of like what inspired that short film, is like, that's so interesting. The thing that I hate, she genuinely loves and like has like a soft caring spot for in her heart. And I think that just kind of opens our eyes a little bit to be like, you know, those things about us, like people who love us know us by them. So it's, you know, it's sometimes easier to slowly accept those things, I guess.
Slowly.
Slowly.
I think that's the key word, isn't
And I
it?
think, yeah, and I think that's what I definitely want people to know and take away from, you know, any interview or anything that I talk about this, is it was not overnight. It has been a very long journey of small steps out. Like I went to college alone, you know, I didn't have any friends. I was like, you know, I'm just going to go do it. And I feel like I've always kind of been a bold person, except when it came to like my body basically. And, you know, it slowly has just transitioned where then, you know, like 5 years ago, I started wearing dresses, and I would never wear dresses because I have a ton of scars on my legs. And, you know, that was a small step, but I wouldn't really post pictures of me in the dresses. And, you know, even leading up to the Soul Pancake thing, like I would go to a pool. I would go, you know, even filming Crazy Rich Asians, we all have beach days. I'd be on the beach in my swimsuit. Like everyone could see everything, but it was something about the internet that scared me so much. And it's those people that aren't close to me in my life and don't know me could judge me from afar and be like, wow, that's really weird. Or, you know, just think whatever. But then what I kind of realized is like, I'm so free ever since I did that Soul Pancake thing. I'm never really worried like, oh no, what like weird picture's gonna be taken of me. I'm just like, you know what? It's all out there. And I feel like so free from it, but it was definitely a long process and steps forward, like for years and years and years. And even like the opportunity for the Soul Pancake, I ended up, you know, I was telling you earlier, I ended up like turning it down because I thought it was a filmmaking opportunity. And then the director, he's like an awesome guy who does all the Soul Pancake stuff. His name is Nick Gross. But he, you know, I sent him my story because I knew like there's a couple events leading up to like me being like, I should probably share my story. And then like I saw this opportunity that was like, do I have any storytellers in the house on Facebook? It's like, oh, I'm a storyteller. What's up? And then he's like, it's this amazing on-camera opportunity called That Moment, where you share something influential that happened in your life. And immediately, like I knew immediately what I had to tell, what the story was. And I was like, oh no, uh-oh, now I'm having to like fight against, this thing that I feel like I was just being called to do. And I ended up sending him my story in written word. And he was like, this is insane. Like, this is amazing story. I'm so excited for this. Let's meet up and talk about it. And I ignored his email for like a week. And he emailed me, was like, you're trying to bail, aren't you? And I was like, yeah, I don't know about this anymore. But, he ended up telling me like, this is powerful. And, I knew I had to do it. It was just, it's even like driving there was a thing of, the jacket thing was something that I didn't tell him I was planning on doing because I wanted the option if I wanted to back out to just like, I can share my story on camera, I ended up doing it. And it was like, it's just been like this kind of monumental moment in my own life. And, you see a little bit of that in Blue too. There's some stuff like during that dance scene with her shirt that comes off. It's like, I love taking those things and feelings that I have and then like putting it into something and kind of making it like beautiful, and I think that's kind of how like I've healed myself from, like the pain of it all is like, you just turn something, you take it and turn it around and make it into art or something that you find beautiful. And then it's kind of like, you're at peace with it.
Yeah. And I love that. And for those people that have listened to our interview today and gone, do you know, I'd really, really love to see Blue. And if it is open to the general public, I highly, highly recommend it because it touched parts of my heart and soul that I didn't even know could be touched. How would people go about finding information?
So it's not public right now. I'm hoping we're sending it out to a couple of festivals, but I'm hoping to post it somewhere on one of the short film kind of sites because I want it out there. I'm really, it was an amazing project, but I'm super focused on my next project in the AFI program. So which my next project is going to feature like two leads with physical differences. So Blue was very much metaphor, didn't include anyone who have any, medical or physical differences. And my next project is actually going to have actors who have, like one limb or a certain bone disease or a prosthetic leg or just something. And my next film's a little more, it's a different theme. I'm kind of going off of the place of people who have differences and disabilities are complex. We're not always just like this inspirational person, which sometimes I think is how people see people with differences. They kind of put them into a box of like, oh, they're this nice person who's just like, we think of them in this category. And I feel like I kind of want the world to see that we're so complex. We're fun, sassy. Some of them are like very crass and, I've met so many people where I'm like, we're just not represented in media at all, how we actually are. It's always kind of seen as this like, victim a little bit, so that's what I'm really passionate about. And I actually just signed with managers last week because they're like stoked about this and they kind of see the place in the industry where, an authentic voice needs to come and tell these stories. Because I feel when it's, if you haven't experienced it, you're missing some of the insight and nuance to this journey.
You are, and everybody has a story that needs to be told. And when we tell our stories, the barriers and the blocks and the walls start to fall down and people can just accept other people for being the human beings that they are. So thank you so much for taking time out. It's been an absolute pleasure. And obviously we will post information about where people can find out a little bit more about you. But thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule.
Yes, thank you so much. Great talking to you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.